It's time for Twig This Week in Google, episode 45 with Jeff, Gina, and me. We will talk about Google, some big announcements there, and Steve Jobs and why biting his lip might be a signal. It's all coming up with Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 45, recorded June 2nd, 2010. We're all in our jammies. This Week in Google is brought to you by Go to Assist Express. If you're in tech support, clients rely on you for fast and reliable service. Help them the fast and easy way with Go to Assist Express. For a free 30-day trial, visit gotoassist.com/twig. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, the show that covers the Google and the Cloudverse. And here with us, well-versed in clouds, Gina Trapani of smarterware.org.
Hello.
It's good to see you once again, Gina, the author of a fabulous book, which is now going to sell like hotcakes because everybody's using Wave.
Everybody's in Wave.
The complete
Everybody's in Wave. Come on.
She knew it all along.
She knew it. She said everybody will be... you know what? We didn't acknowledge the fact that Wave is 1 year old because they announced it at Google I/O last year, didn't they?
Yep. It is 1 year old and open to everyone. So, and much better than it was a year ago. So
True.
Check it out if
So
you
try it
haven't looked at
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also here, of course, the great Jeff Jarvis, author of What Would Google Do, blogger at buzzmachine.com, podcaster for The Guardian, and director of the Interactive Journalism Program at the City University of New York, where he is right now at their Graduate School of Journalism. What is the headline behind you? You told us once before. I can't
this
remember.
one is people shot down by soldiers in the streets of San Francisco.
Oh, my goodness. This was the earthquake.
Yeah, this is the earthquake.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Wow. Jeff's going to pull his
Let's see, we're getting a little closer
frame.
here.
He's got a framed newspaper. Is that the Call Bulletin?
This was the Oakland Tribune.
Oh, that's right, because the San Francisco papers couldn't print. Wow. An example of the old media.
Yep.
Yes, we used to print things on dead trees. You know, I saw a very kind of disturbing article that's really not related, although I guess it is peripherally, that because fewer and fewer buyers are buying, I guess because newspapers are buying less ground wood pulp products, the companies that manufacture pulp wood are now selling more and more to booksellers or book publishers, book printers, and more books are not printed on acid-free paper anymore, but are printed on pulpwood, which will, of course, disintegrate, turn yellow and disintegrate in, over a period of decades. Isn't that depressing?
Not if it's all digital.
Well, it's going to hasten the demise of the book. I mean, I thought
literally.
the book, literally. I thought the book would survive because it is a kind of a form factor that has a certain aesthetic and a certain appeal. And if anybody, I mean, I have a library of books. I love books. I have books all over my walls. I built-in bookshelves, and I love that. Maybe I'm an antique, but the thought that they may disintegrate. I think this article mentioned that something like 1/2 of the New York Times bestseller list is printed on ground wood.
Oh.
Wow. I'm surprised. I'm surprised there aren't like rules about that.
Yeah, who's going to make that rule?
Well, this book must be on paper that's going to last long. Well, you know how Pogue does this in his missing manuals? He kind of, in the beginning, he describes like the high quality paper that he uses and the binding so the book stays open on your desk while you tap the keys. I would imagine that books can be kind of proud of the fact that they were written.
Yeah, it's more important now.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah. I think physical books are more about being on a bookshelf and being sort of decoration, as well as things that we read, right? But like I have my books that I like to have on my walls and on my bookshelves, and I have the books that like I download to my Kindle just because I want to read them quick, and then they're kind of throwaway.
As I'm doing research for my next one, I'm the need to underline, and Kindle just doesn't do it easily. Nobody does it easily. Just to underline and write notes on the side. I'm buying hard books. Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine who bought a used book on Amazon. It's actually an interesting book, The History of the Vibrator. And it said in Amazon, good, excellent quality, was top of the list, and she got it. It had been underlined. But I think there's some value to that, isn't there? There's some information been added there, and I don't know if that's so bad. I love it that you can do that. You can annotate. You can marginalia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, was it Euler's theorem? Whose theorem was it that he wrote in the margins of his math book that, this should be provable? I have a proof. And then it was never proven.
And authors' signatures, right? Like I remember when I being in a bookstore in the Village in Manhattan and looking through, finding an old copy of a book from an author who I really liked and opening it up and finding that she had signed it.
Wow.
And I was like, this is so cool, and it was like $2. I mean, that kind of thing. You can't sign an ebook, that's for sure.
So let's talk about how badly AT&T sucks. Jeff, you called it a cynical act.
Well, when you think about it, listen to Jon Stewart, right? The service sucks. There are two responses to that. The proper response is to invest and make the service not suck. The other response is to change your pricing so you make your customers use it less. That's what they did. And the irony to me is, I've told the story, I think, here before, that is a guy named Tom Evslin, who ran AT&T WorldNet, who took off the 1995 or put on the 1995 flat rate pricing and made the internet explode.
Right.
The irony is that it's AT&T that's putting the clock, the ticking clock, the I better get off clock, back on connectivity just as mobile explodes. It just shows what terrible managers they are. And yeah, people will come in and say, it's supply and demand, Jarvis, and this and that. Well, but at some point, if you're selling me a service I'm afraid to use, it just doesn't make sense.
So for those of you who haven't been paying, as we have strict attention to all the latest tech news every moment, of course, because we watch that fabulous Tom Merritt and Becky Worley on Tech News Today every weekday at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern on Twit Live.
And you said you weren't good at plugs. I heard you at the last show. You're a master at it.
For those of you who weren't listening yesterday, AT&T shocked every iPad owner. I gave my 80-year-old father-in-law an iPad last week, and he sent me an email this week. He said, because I said, get the 250 megs. You probably won't use it much. He said, I use it up. So he had to subscribe to the 30 gig, a $30 unlimited AT&T plan. Well, it's a good thing he did, because Monday, AT&T's announced we're discontinuing it. They're going to charge $25 for 2 gigabytes of data, and then an additional $10 for every additional gigabyte you download. And now you're grandfathered in if you get your unlimited by Monday. But that, to me, that seems like a you're right, cynical act.
When does Apple drop AT&T? What did Jobs have to say about that last
night? Well, he didn't.
He bit his lip.
Is that the signal? And he touched his ear, and then he went like this, and that means...
Walt Mossberg asked Steve Jobs at the D8 conference, when's Verizon going to get the iPhone? Steve doesn't answer. He goes, I'm trying to hold back. I'm gonna read the tea leaves, Gina. It's my opinion that he wanted to say, well, watch Monday.
Yep.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Now, maybe I'm nuts, but that AT&T's plan changes Monday. So the question is, who did it? Who was it blinked? Was it AT&T that said we can't afford to do this? We're going to have to charge you, and then Apple said, okay, fine, we're going Verizon, or was it the other way around? And AT&T found out and said, okay, well, so much for that unlimited plan that you begged us for. Which do you think, Gina? I
think Apple's in the driver's seat there. I think. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I put it in Twitter this way. I think that when Apple picked AT&T, Apple sniffed the shark, right? Because why did they pick them? So they could have control, not to get us better service.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got unlimited. We only got it for a while. I think it's more of control freakishness. I don't know. And we're left with terrible choices now. It's not like Verizon's no better. Verizon's had caps on forever.
Yeah, Verizon's 5 gigabytes, and you really can't buy more, right?
And then Sprint is. I'm eager to hear Gina's review of the Evo, because Sprint is unlimited, but I can't use it in Europe. And T-Mobile has an unlimited today, but I can't use it in America.
T-Mobile gives you free tethering on a Nexus 1 with Froyo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. AT&T is going to charge $20 for tethering.
Right. And Sprint's going to charge $30.
Yeah, $30. Although
that's still half what they charge for a MiFi.
I mean, so on the Evo, the Sprint has the capability to turn on the hotspot. So the Evo that we got at I/O has unlimited data, right? So you can use it as a hotspot. But if you don't have pay that extra $30, right? In theory, you can't use it as a hotspot. But you can still tether, like using PDA-Net or any other way that you could. I mean, I was tethering before with Android 2.1, just using PDA-Net and connecting it with a USB cable to my, how do they know? Do they know where the traffic's coming from?
That's my question. I mean, Android could
They can't
report back.
possibly.
Well, Android could report back, right? It could say tethering's on.
I guess so.
You got to fire up Wireshark, Gina.
Yeah, we should. No, I mean, but how? I mean, it's not like, HTTP traffic, right, is going to send the agent. The user
traffic
agent,
will look
but,
the
like,
same.
The traffic's going to look the same.
Android would have to signal to the carrier, they've turned on tethering.
Well, couldn't you tell because you'd see different browser types and things like that come through?
Ah, that's true too.
Yeah, but
You could-
Steve Jobs
You'd have to do
last
deep packet
flurry.
inspection. You'd have to sniff the packets, which is kind of verboten.
yeah. So we're saying that Apple said it was going to make the iPhone available on Verizon, and in response to that, AT&T said, "Fine, okay, we're going to start charging for this."
One or the other. Somebody blinked. Somebody said,
Yeah.
okay, but the upshot for the consumer is it's got to be Steve's going to take the stage 10 a.m. June 7th, Monday, Worldwide Developers Conference. Quote, you won't be disappointed. What's he going to say? Is he going to say a Verizon iPad? Is he going to say Verizon iPhone? Is he going to say both? He's got to do so. He's got to be, look at 100,000 Android phones a day now.
Yeah.
Apple trumpeted 2 million iPads in 2 months. 100,000 a day is 3 million Android phones a month. It's 3 times that.
And did you hear what he said about Schmidt last night?
No.
So I didn't see this in the video. I was reading Ina Fried's live blog. I guess Walt Mossberg had asked Jobs like what happened with Schmidt, and Jobs said something like they decided to compete with us. We didn't go into search.
Yeah.
Something like that. So
that's
it was like
his story.
he's feeling it.
Steve was the kinder, gentler Steve. Hey, I wasn't going after Adobe. We just made a technical decision. Then they attacked me, so I had to get them.
Right. No, but I think that comment says that Jobs is paying it. I think he's concerned about the Android thing. I think that he's like, okay, we're on. Game on.
Is there any chance he'd open it up to all carriers?
He could. That's interesting. That's an interesting play.
If you're gonna fight Google, then screw it, man. You get your iPhones everywhere.
Why wouldn't he? Because if you give up the exclusive, then
There's no benefit to him.
Verizon's not going to say no just because everybody else is selling it. They want the iPhone, I'm sure. Don't they? I mean, anybody would want the iPhone. Look how the iPhone sells. Why not? Even if you're selling Android phones, give your customers every choice possible. Now, by the way, it ain't just phones we're talking. Android tablets, there are, Steve Gibson told me, 45, count them, tablets being announced this week at Computex in Taiwan running Android. So, Gina, you're going to get your wish.
I'm excited. I'm really excited to try out an Android tablet. This is going to be, where is this conference?
Computex is the big PC manufacturers conference in Taiwan.
Oh, it's in Taiwan.
And so it's
Damn.
all the time. Well, Acer, Asus. Yeah, it's all the Taiwanese manufacturers and
Gotcha.
lots of different designs we're seeing, kind of funky, interesting hardware, but SD card slots, USB connectors, cameras, all the things Apple isn't putting on theirs. I have to say, I've come around. When you first said, I can't wait for an Android tablet, I was saying, but no, this iPad, it's perfect. It's perfect. But I think you're right. I think an Android tablet could be just as good, couldn't it?
I think so. And wire-free. No wires, which is something else that Jobs talked about last night, right? The fact that you have to connect your iPad.
Yeah, what's the deal with that? Did he explain that?
He said we need to get better at that. I feel like he was really. I was pretty. Now again, I didn't see this video. I just read the text, so I'm not sure how it delivered it. But I mean, the fact that one could argue that Apple doesn't get the cloud nearly as well as Google does, and I think that the fact that you have to connect your iPad to your Mac, with a cord, is a really good indicator of that, right? So I think, but the fact that Jobs said, right now there's a wire involved to sync your data. We need to get better at that.
Is it still true that you can't use an iPad unless you have a computer?
Well, you have to. When you turn it on, it says, hook me up.
Right.
But people tell me there's no reason you couldn't do that at the Apple Store. They would hook it up for you. You would have to put an account in, and then you can get music and applications without connecting it. It'll never back up. But, you kind of be SOL. You'd have to take it back to the store if anything happened to it. But, You don't have. That's the thing. Apple didn't have to do that.
Whereas Android tablets, like Android phones, will back up to the cloud, right?
The cloud, yeah.
Right.
And you sign in, and all your data's there instantly.
Tell me this, though. I think there's a difference, is there not, if I get official Android and I get access to the marketplace. If I get open source Android, I don't get access to the marketplace, right?
What?
Is that true?
Somebody told me that was the case for, and I don't, this is fourth hand, it just made me concerned that if you didn't have a billing relationship through this structure, a manufacturer can throw on open source Android onto the device, but that you lose some things, and I'm not sure exactly what.
Well, if you have a Google account, you have a Google checkout.
Right. So that, okay, good. That makes me feel better.
Well, so there's like the Android operating system, much of which is open source, right? And so that's the operating system, and that's open source. And then there are some apps on top of it which are closed source, like for example the Gmail native client. That's a closed source application, right? So like this is why Cyanogen got into all that trouble when he was distributing.
He can't
that other
distribute the stuff,
right? Because you can't distribute these closed source apps. So I'm not sure if the Market app is closed source. That's a possibility.
Also the Gmail. So the problem is if you get a tablet with Android, I'm not sure that's a sufficient answer. I don't know. But I think it's worth looking into as these things come out.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting. I mean, if companies are creating custom builds of Android to install on their software, you know, that on their hardware, that's like completely, that's like, it's, I want to say Chromium, but that's the open source layer of Chrome. I'm forgetting what the Android project is. It's like it's some acronym that basically says like this is the open source version of Android. And
so it's like Darwin and OS X, Chromium and Chrome.
Exactly.
And so you're going to have a problem with fragmentation. You're not going to get Froyo.
You're going to have forking.
Right.
Right. Well, right.
So that's an issue.
Yeah, there's forking. That's part of, you know.
That's open source. Welcome to open source.
Right. Welcome to open source.
Yep.
You know.
You know, and you and I both, Gina, now are using a Sprint Evo. You got yours at Google I/O, and Sprint sent me a loaner. Yes, I'm going to send it back, but I think I'm going to buy it. But it has the HTC Sense on top of it, including the HTC apps, which are like the Google apps, proprietary. I like theirs. I like the Mail app better, for instance.
Really?
Oh, that's interesting. So I don't use the Mail app because I use the Gmail app. But their browser is a little better.
Is it better?
I still envision you
a little
using
better. Well, it's named Internet. It's not named browser, and it had pinch to zoom. But the regular browser has it. It has a couple of features, like it does a couple things a little differently than the Android browser. So I think that it is a different browser.
Oh, okay. I hadn't really paid any attention to it.
I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Now, Leo, have you used the Incredible?
I have only played with it. I haven't used it extendedly, but
that's the hot debate going. And
also has
as I give up on AT&T and switch fully to Android, and T-Mobile, God bless them, I like the plan, but the service doesn't work for where I live. So I've got to decide between the Evo and the Incredible.
I like the big screen on the Evo. Really, it's a choice between Verizon and Sprint, I think, at bottom. I think the differences are small enough that it's really more about the carrier. However, one
of them has unlimited data.
Yeah. For now. Sprint's cheaper. Sprint's going to be cheaper.
Sprint's been doing it for a long time.
I like Sprint, and I think because they're an underdog, they can't change quite as easily. This is the email, the HTC Sense email. It has a couple of features I like. It has threaded conversations, just like Gmail.
Oh, nice.
But it also has a VIP group. You can add contacts to the VIP group. If they're in that, they get a special mailbox. Now, of course, I could do this with rules, but they get a special mailbox, which means I no longer miss emails from my mom.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's really sweet.
Really nice.
And
Gina, now the question is, are you and I on that list?
Yes, you are.
That is the question.
You are. You are on that list.
Away.
No, you are on that list. Everybody I work with is on that list. But so these are the emails I want to see. And so it's little things like that I think are pretty nice. It doesn't have a unified inbox, which is a little frustrating. But I can always go to the Google app for that because you still get the Google apps.
Yeah.
These widgets, though, I really like some of these widgets.
I like the widgets. And there's Flickr integration, too. And, I like that widget there with the pictures of your
favorites widget. Isn't that fantastic?
Now, how's the battery life that everybody's been screaming about?
This is a bigger battery. It's about, I think, 12% bigger than the Nexus One.
I've heard people say it just dies.
Well, I think with 4G it might. 4G is a real...
You got to toggle that off.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, most likely you don't have it anyway, right?
Right. So I
Is the problem
do the
4G
same.
or is the
I do the
problem-
same thing. In fact, I'll talk a little bit if you want about battery conservation techniques for Android, because I'd love to talk with you about what you do, Gina. But I've really done a lot of research on this, trying to find the best battery life. This seems to have about the same as the Nexus One, maybe slightly better when I do the same things. It's certainly, all smartphones now you have to nurse through the day. You can't get them. They're not going to go all day if you're not careful, right?
It's true.
This is the
It really is
messaging
true.
app, widget, I should say, which I really like. A better music widget, much more usable.
Yeah, the music widget is really nice.
It's got cover flow, which even the iPhone lacks. Or maybe it's the iPad that lacks it. Of course, none of my album art survived the transition, but at least if I had cover flow, I could.
You
do
had it. Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the Evo screen. I think for us old guys, Jeff, the it's the same resolution. It's just a bigger screen.
It's just a bigger screen. Yeah.
So it's more legible. It's the large text edition of Android.
It is. That screen is just on the edge of being too big. Like
Yes.
it's perfect. But if it was any bigger, I would feel like, okay, we're now in tablet land.
Yes.
So you're not
you could,
so-
you
so-
could
so
just
that's
fit
the
it in your
part.
breast pocket.
Yeah.
just,
I mean, they really kind of pushed it right to the edge
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
So
what they
what's
should
the-
do.
The Dell thing that's coming out. I keep on forgetting the new name.
That one's huge.
Yeah.
You don't want to look. I mean, you've got to consider the dork effect of holding something too big to your head. Too big
true.
or too small. I used to work with a guy, David Borman. He's now the bureau chief at CNN Washington. And this was in '94. And it was a real status object to have the world's biggest watch and the world's smallest cell phone. And he had a Sony cell phone that was this big and had a little thing that came off. And he's a large man. And he looked like such a nitwit holding this thing to his ear. And I noticed he doesn't carry that anymore. So
It's the Android open source project is AOSP. The real Riley tells me on
ASOP.
Twitter. So ASOP. I knew it was something like that. AOSP.
OSP or
OSP.
they missed a
Android open
bet.
source project.
They should have made it the Android Source Open project.
ASOP.
then they'd
would been
have-
easier to say.
Then they'd have an acronym.
Yeah.
Then they got an acronym. So we're all mad at AT&T. AT&T sucks. We think, reading the tea leaves, which is a popular thing to do with Apple shows, but this is, a Google show. We can read tea leaves too. That means an announcement on Monday from Apple. What do you think about this? Google says no to Windows. Now, I know about this because Colleen Kelly, our engineer, just went to Google.
Oh, interesting.
And she said to me, and I didn't say anything because I didn't know if it was secret, they aren't offering me a Windows machine. I said, what? Because she's a Windows lover. No, I can only use Linux or Mac. Now it comes out.
Interesting.
That's the new policy.
Ah.
See, I just immediately thought that whole report. I was like, there's no way. There's no way that they're banning Windows. So now I think there's a big difference between strongly encouraging your employees to use a certain setup and like absolutely banning an operating system. So I mean, if a Google employee said, I need a Windows machine in order to do this kind of development or do this kind of testing, are they really going to say no? Is this
Yes,
no?
apparently they
Go to the
are.
basement.
Apparently you have to go. Well, now again, you're right. I don't know if this is official or not, but what I read is you have to go to a committee. And
That seems
I have to defend
weird.
my use of Windows. It does seem weird.
It seems weird. It seems like a really kind of uncharacteristically bad move, I think. I mean, 9 out of 10 of the personal computers in the world, right, run Windows. Do you think when you're creating a product, even if it's a web app,
It would be a mistake. You're right. It would be a huge mistake. You got to eat your own dog food.
You do. You have to eat your own dog food, and you have to run IE. But the world runs IE, right? I mean, whether or not that's a good thing, I'm not saying that's a good thing at all. But that's kind of the reality, and so you've got to experience your product the way most of your users are. So that freaks me out a little bit. I mean, most of the world is not using Mac or Linux. I mean, the Linux desktop thing is particularly like, really? Like the sales and marketing people at Google are using Linux? I assume that they're going for the Macs.
Front office has to use Windows. You know me. I'm a Mac fan. Mm-hmm. Some would say a boy, but but even in here at the front office, they're using Windows because they all use QuickBooks. They're
Well,
not
maybe it
gonna-
depends on the department.
Yeah,
I mean, if the argument was that it helped provide the vulnerability, your basic salesperson doesn't have access to anything that's going to make the company vulnerable, but your programmer is, no?
Yeah, I mean, the whole vulnerability thing is like, the story that ran said something like, because of the China hack thing. But it's like they're not banning Flash, right? I mean, that wasn't just a Windows thing.
Steve ruined that chance, weird.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. It seemed odd to me. But now that you say that Colleen is, as a new Google employee, was kind of given the choice of Linux or Mac, maybe
she was shocked.
I'm surprised.
So this confirms at least that new employees, because when you go to a company, you get a computer, are being offered 2, not 3, but 2 choices.
Yeah.
Now she's going into engineering. Her job is video streaming engineer. So it might make sense that an engineer for their day-to-day computer would be given one kind. And it doesn't say that she can't run Windows in emulation. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we didn't get into great detail. I didn't want to pry, but I thought that was really surprising. And then when I see these news stories coming out, maybe it's true. And not to mention, that there are plenty of security. I hate to say this. There are plenty of security holes on Mac and Windows and Linux.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not. And boy, Microsoft was pissed. Did you see the Microsoft blog where they said, no, well, actually, we're more secure. we're the most secure. I love it when they do this. We're the most secure operating system in the world. Everyone knows that.
Of course they did.
Of course they are. Of course you are, baby. I'm sorry we hurt your feelings. Oh, that's terrible. Yes, you're very secure. It's the funniest blog post I ever read. It's like, what world are you living in? We're the most secure operating system in the world. Everybody agrees. Okay. I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't make fun of them.
It is so much fun.
You deal with that a lot in the newspaper industry. You know all about that.
It does strike me that the karma is getting really nasty on the West Coast.
Yeah, we're angry. You know why?
Really?
California is bankrupt.
Is that what it
We're
is?
pissed.
The Apple versus Microsoft versus Google versus everybody.
Something in the water, I know. And Microsoft's in
touchy.
Washington State, and they're just hands off. They're like, no, God, you guys are crazy down there in the Silicon Valley. You're nuts. What is going on? You're right. And they're, the campuses. Now, is there any credence in this idea that Apple planted a 5th column inside of Microsoft? And the reason that Microsoft's consumer division has gone, this is Rob Enderle said this, I think. The reason that Microsoft's consumer division has gone so bad is that Robbie Bach really was a secret Apple plant. That can't be that. Talk about smoking something.
Yeah. There'd be laws against that, I think.
I don't think that Apple would plant a 5th columnist inside of Microsoft.
I love how they got so very V.
You're so very V. All right, let's take a break. Come back. We're talking, of course, about Google and the cloud and everything going on in the Cloudverse with the great Gina Trapani and Jeff Jarvis. We will have more for you in a moment, but I do want to mention our cloud friends. Citrix has been cloud forever. The remote access is their bread and butter and has been for more than a decade. In fact, I started using GoToAssist, their remote assistance product. It's about 7 years ago on the screensavers. The latest GoToAssist Express is so slick, so fast, so good. You could try it free for 30 days right now if you go to gotoassist.com/twig. This takes support and puts it in the cloud. So you don't have to walk down the hall to your users. You don't have to travel around to your users. You don't have to even be on the phone explaining stuff to them. You just say, you got a problem? I did this with my mom. She was having trouble. I don't know. I think Quicken was storing. She said, where's my Quicken data? I said, Mom, I'm on chat. Well, I'm Skype with her, actually. And I said in Skype chat, I sent her the link to gotoassist.com and it had the special ID built in there. She clicked it. Literally 30 seconds later, it's a quick download. I'm fixing the problem. I'm saying, oh, here it is, Mom. It's right here. This is so great. If you're in professional remote support, you need remote access, and this is the one to get. GoToAssist Express. It has all sorts of nice features. 8 sessions at once, unattended sessions if you wish. Your clients don't have to have it installed ahead of time. It's so quick to install that, boom, you're fixing it right away. It'll tell you what operating system, what security software, all the software running in the background. It works on PCs and Macs. So I'm on Windows supporting Mom on a Mac. I mean, it's just incredible. It's the modern world coming to support. Try it right now. By the way, 128-bit SSL encryption, of course. Free customer service 24/7, of course. Go to gotoassist.com GOTOassist.com/twig, TWIG, and you get 30 days free. There are day passes for the casual support enthusiast, like the family support person. But I think the monthly is going to be the way to go if you're in the business of support. Go to assist.com/twig. We thank them for their support of This Week in Google. I loved your post, Jeff, on the FTC report on how to save journalism.
And the FTC and the FCC both have these projects going on, and I testified at hearings for both.
Well, they didn't listen to you, obviously.
Oh, no. At the FCC, I had the joy of beginning my testimony with the word Baba Booey.
No.
Yeah, I did.
No.
I did.
What did they do? Did they even know what you were doing?
No, they snickered.
Oh, that's good. I think it's a younger, hipper crowd now.
Yeah. Because I was making a point about why they should butt out. Look what they did at Howard Stern. Anyway, the FTC has another one of these hearings or workshops coming up on June 15th. So they released a 35-page discussion draft. And it was shocking to me in a few ways. What it really does is it equates the future of journalism with newspapers, and it tries to then save newspapers as they exist, which, of course, is not possible because they have to change. The FTC did not try to align itself with the entrepreneurs and innovators and disruptors who are going to create the future. Evidence of that, in the entire 35 pages, they mentioned the word blog but once, and that was only to make a parenthetical reference to buying ads on soccer blogs.
That's so freaking clueless. I can't believe it.
Lest we descend into a nation of bloggers.
Bloggers, how horrible. They're all in their jammies.
You see, I think we're back at this now. It's back into a world of the controlled versus the uncontrolled.
Yeah.
The institutional versus the
I guess it shouldn't surprise me that this is how government thinks, but administration wants change, and you go, what it really is that it develops it's circling the wagons around each other. It's the old institutions helping each other. It's not right or left here. One of my commenters on the blog wonderfully called it not the conservatives or liberals, but the preservatives. I love it.
The document didn't talk about.
It's not the
technology.
FCC, it's BHT. I got it. Yeah.
The document talked about technology only at the very end, where they suggested things like looking at new note-taking technologies. It made all kinds of suggestions about extending copyright and limiting fair use, which would be awful. They actually had the idea in their proprietary facts, which is worse than the patent office. They looked at subsidy in various ways, all of which are politically untenable. But they looked at subsidies in terms of...
they want to tax people. Well, no, this isn't a plan, though. They're not really going to do that.
Somebody's suggestion, right. None of this is going to happen.
But tax us on what? Technology?
So we're electronics devices. So I just to be nasty, called it the iPad tax. 5%.
And then that money goes to support, goes to keep Rupert Murdoch's business going, just in case you were worried about it. I'm down for that.
Wow.
It's an absurd document. And it's just, it's the right wing that's coming out smashing it too, but I think that both sides should be just appalled at this, that it's not about protecting the past. And so what we see here, I think, is a larger question for us in government, is that innovators and entrepreneurs and technologists have no lobbying muscle in Washington. And to a great extent, we don't give a damn. But there are issues that affect us and thus the future of the country. And I think we're going to find ourselves at a weakness here. Look at Google itself, that had no lobbying in Washington, messed it up for a long time, finally did. We as technologists don't have it. It's a discussion that we've had, Gina, many times, that, as you say, that the hacks just go around. Mm-hmm. Hackers just go around. But I think this is going to be an issue for us, is because at some point something dangerous could be done. Copyright could be extended for newspapers. Fair use could be brought back in. Bad things could happen out of Washington.
Yeah. Be scary. Now, to top this off, Danny Sullivan, poor Danny Sullivan, was the guy who came up with the story. Was it on Search Engine Land, or was it on his own personal blog? Was it presumably on
Search Engine Land?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About this woman who is suing.
Yeah, I mean,
there's two stories here. There's the story and there's the meta story. Right. And the meta story ties to what you're saying, because Danny, who is a great blogger, really good blogger, broke this story, but all the mainstream media picked up the story
And didn't credit him.
and didn't credit him in the least.
And
And
even stole his screenshot.
yeah, that's what.
Right.
That's how he says he knew it happened. He says the Daily Mail has the story, and he knows that it was his story because they're using the screenshot he made without attribution.
Somebody
Yeah,
else
you
did the same thing, and then the secondary layer is people will then they'll quote the Daily Mail, not Danny.
Yeah, well, of course.
Right. And,
Quote
last
somebody.
night they asked, I think Kara asked Jobs, what about saving journalism? And he said, well, we don't want to descend into a nation of bloggers.
Oh,
And that was my quote, lest we descend into a nation of bloggers, because bloggers don't actually break news. It's like, actually, yeah, no, Danny broke the
Danny
story,
broke the
got
story.
totally
Broke
ripped
the
off.
story.
They used
As
his
John Patel
images. Like,
said.
this is legitimate journalism. I mean, he saw a legal brief that no one else spotted, right? Or a friend of his spotted it for him, and he wrote up the story. So it's infuriating. Jobs, Jobs had me in the. I want to really hate him, but I don't. I respect him very much, and he had me in the palm of his hand. He does. I don't know. It's like these Jedi mind tricks. He presents very well.
Yeah.
But when he says things like that, we don't want to descend into a nation of bloggers. I just want to kick him in the shins.
yeah. Well, hey, it could be worse. It could be a nation of podcasters. Think
Well, it
what
could
that
a
might be
nation of
like.
Podcasters.
That would be bad.
For someone
shut
who's such
up.
a visionary. I mean, for him to be so.
It doesn't
You know.
surprise me because he was very dismissive of podcasts early on too. He thought very little of them. Although you got
I
to.
think this goes back to the control versus the uncontrolled.
Right.
Again,
Right.
that's why Jobs and publishers are embracing each other, because they want a controlled world. But Patel wrote a great post about just that, Gina, saying that he respects the hell out of him, but there were like 3 times in the talk he just wanted to strangle him. And
Yes.
Patel's line was, "Steve, we started as a nation of bloggers."
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
The pamphleteers.
I like that.
Very good point.
Very good point. That's all we are.
So you were going to mention what the understory was to that meta story.
Well, it's kind of the understory isn't that. It's a fun, one of those, haha, what a funny story. The meta story is really more interesting, but the story is a woman, and thank you, Danny Sullivan, Search Engine Land, who broke this story. Because you know what? We do the same thing. I try to remember to attribute stuff, but I often forget to say where the story came from and stuff. So I feel like I do that too. There is, you know what? Part of this, Jeff, isn't it just kind of the link economy? Everybody just kind of.
Yeah, but that's part of it. I think it's part of what I have to teach here at journalism school, that the provenance matters in a few ways, right? It matters so that the reader can know where the source really goes to, A. B, it matters about supporting the journalism at its source, because if he or she who gets the links monetizes them, then the links are money.
Well, and I get a little torn because I'll read about something, let's say, on Hacker News. So I'm tempted to give the link to Hacker News because that's where I read about it. But what I usually do, and you tell me what I should do, Professor Jarvis, I usually trace it down to where, as far down as I can go. And, if it's a Huffington Post just linking to somebody else, I'm not going to give HuffPo the link.
Right.
I prefer that.
Go to the
I
source.
think that's the ethical thing to do.
Go to the source.
And, and it supports journalism at its source. But I think in line with that, we journalists violate that, as Danny demonstrates, right and left.
Right.
So we complain, the Rupert Murdoch and company complain about parasites. Well, they're parasites.
Right.
And one of the funny things, back to the FTC for one boring second, is when they talk about changing fair use, they recognize that every damn journalist uses fair use. TV is made to rip and read fair use.
You bet.
And if they restricted fair use, it would probably cut off much of the journalism business.
You used a phrase that I doubt anybody under the age of 40 knows these days, rip and read. But that's how I became. That's
Make
how.
me feel old, Leo. Thank you.
But that's
Wait,
how
wait,
I
test-
started too. Rip and read.
Gina, do you know what rip and read is? Oh,
I
God.
don't.
Of course she doesn't,
Sorry.
Jeff. Of course she doesn't, because rip and read goes back to the days when you would get, as a newsman or a reporter in the news station, you would get your news from this thing called a teletype. They put them in a separate room because there were 4 of them, UPI, AP, Reuters, and Bloomberg or whoever, and they'd be going, joon, 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 spitting it out on old, talk about ground wood. This stuff still had pieces of wood in the paper, rolls of wood. Paper, rather, made out of wood. And you'd go in with a ruler and a number 4 pencil, the softest pencil you could find, and you'd put the ruler across it. You'd rip the story off, You do very minor markup to it. Mostly you just pre-read it to make sure you can pronounce the names, and then you'd go on the air with it. Of
Are
course,
you like Yoda? Like, where have you been alive for like 800 years? What? When was this? Like,
this was very recent.
Very, very.
Well, okay, it was 30 years ago, but it was relatively
I'm
recent.
going out right after the show and buying some Grecian formula.
So you'd rip it and you'd read it, and that was. But now remember, these radio stations, TV stations, newspapers paid Associated Press, paid UPI. They syndicated material to them. So at that point, attribution was. You wouldn't say, "Oh, from the UPI comes this story," would you?
No, it was also argued that of course, you broadcast buffoons would just rip the paper up and read it too.
Well, okay, maybe once in a while. So I'm still doing the same thing.
Unlike real report.
I haven't done any enterprise reporting since I was a younger man, much younger. But Danny did some, and occasionally a blogger will do some enterprise reporting and come up with something, and he certainly deserves credit. So the story is, how responsible is Google for giving out bad directions on Google Maps? Lauren Rosenberg is suing Google in Utah because she Googled walking directions for a trip in Park City, Utah. Google led her onto a highway where she was hit by a car.
Oh, jeez.
Let's see. Harward is the person who hit Rosenberg. Patrick Harward is being sued as well as Google for damages in excess of $100,000. So she used her BlackBerry to get these directions, and it said walk along about half a mile along the Deer Valley Drive. Well, apparently there's no sidewalk. It's basically a highway. She got hit. Her lawyer, we're getting mixed signals from her lawyer. Lawyer's saying, well, it was dark, and she couldn't tell it was a highway. But aren't you a little bit responsible?
A lot. You're a lot responsible. And isn't there a disclaimer on Google Maps that says,
there is.
Directions are approximate?
Except not on the BlackBerry.
Oh, jeez. Come on.
They left it off the BlackBerry.
I didn't notice it was a highway, so I just followed what Google told me on my BlackBerry at night, and I got hit. So it's their fault.
Google's never lied to me before. You know what? This is just deep pockets. You're going to sue wherever you can.
Well, the next one you're going to see is I crossed the street while watching my iPad.
Yeah.
You distracted me.
As somebody in the chat room said, there's no fix for stupid.
Computers can do a lot, kids.
Yeah,
It all
but-
really
She's gonna
ultimately
sue
comes
the chat
down to
room
your
next.
human
Yeah.
brain to make good decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I did a laser tag battle with my kid and his friends on Monday, and I turned on my tracks. We were up in the woods in Loma Mar in the redwoods, and I turned on my tracks.
Oh, I want video of that.
Well, there's no video, but the My Tracks did a great Google map. And it's really,
I love that app.
I love
that app.
it.
I'm using it now. I'm like, I walk a few miles or walk or run a few miles every day, and I turn it on. It's fantastic. You can export to CSV. You can bring it into a spreadsheet. You can do well,
you can
chart your mileage. It's awesome.
So here's this is the laser tag plot of me running around with my gun. Now, of course, we're in the woods, so all you see is treetops.
That is awesome.
But I know from that app that I ran 0.7 miles, averaging 5 miles an hour. I mean, it's really kind of cool.
That is performance art right there.
It's kind of a random walk.
That's a great idea, Gina. Oh, Gina, it's a whole game. Use it to make pictures.
Make pictures. Yes.
There's an
that's
interesting app
fun.
on the Evo that's an HTC Sense app called Footprints. Have you played with that at all? Where you're supposed to take pictures as you go around and
Oh no, I haven't played with it.
it's kind of
interesting.
it's kind of a neat app.
Back a couple years ago, Yahoo built these custom bikes that had like a Nokia phone kind of built into the handlebars, and it had a motion detector. So they'd written this Python script so that when you were riding the bike, it would snap a picture every minute or something and upload it to Flickr with geotagged. So a few people had gotten the bikes. I got them, and it was really fun. But somebody had done that. It was during the Obama campaign and had drawn the letters Obama in the cities of San Francisco.
By riding around.
So neat. Yeah, with
That's
the images.
crazy.
So,
That's a lot of work.
So it was really, really neat and really clever, and that's what that reminds me of. And so you really could do that with My Tracks.
There is now, if you do Google Latitude, and we were talking about the kind of potential privacy issues with Latitude, but Google now has a thing called location history. Have you seen this?
Yes. I don't know how to feel about it. Have you turned it on? No, do you have to be using Latitude?
I'm using Latitude, but history is disabled on my account. So
Okay.
I guess you have to. What the hell? What the hell? I'm turning
The
it
man who
on.
closed his Facebook account is
What the
now
hell?
voluntarily handing over his location information to Google.
Just a tip, kids, though, if you want to commit a crime, you might want to turn this off before so that it's not offered in court.
But now I can find out what the best restaurant in San Francisco is tonight.
I'll tell you where. We have a 5:30 reservation. Can my daughter? Hey, when's Jake graduating?
Not until the 24th.
Oh, wow. They go a long way. Abby graduates on Friday.
You're still on farming time.
Yeah, we're in farm country. Got to get out there in the fields. Yes, yep.
Gotta cultivate that pot.
That's next, by the way. I fully believe that come September or November rather, there is an initiative in California that will legalize marijuana. I fully believe will pass.
You need the tax money.
We need the money, and I think they'll make a very credible case that everybody's already stoned in California anyway, and maybe that will calm down the Google-Apple rift. Maybe that's the solution.
Get your Google cafeteria stash. That'd be good.
Yeah, you get the free food, and then on your way out, as you head to the Segways, just pick up a doobie. I'm sorry.
420, free bongs.
420, free bongs. Anyway, Jeez, we have gone downhill here. Google location history. Keep track of your latitude location history. So this will show you everywhere you have been ever. Because your phone's latitude, this is the weird thing about it.
Why would you want that? I mean, I'm fine with it. I have no big objection, but what's the actual utility to that? Beyond Gina saying, because you can and it's cool.
Well, it's just this, it's kind of like, I don't know, I started using Foursquare and I really like it because I just have this, I think Cory Doctorow calls it, myware versus spyware. Like just being able to look at where you've been, there's something compelling. I mean, it's very navel-gazy. There's something compelling about being able to look at a map of the world and be like, I have been, it's the big world map with the pins on it, right? This is where I've been,
Everybody does that. Have you seen check-in? This is the next stage because, okay, you got Foursquare now, Gina, and then you're going to do Gowalla, right? And then you're going to add pretty soon.
Foursquare is the gateway drug,
every
right?
time you get somewhere, my wife thinks I'm nuts. I pull out my phone and I start going,
I know.
What are you doing? I'm telling everybody where I am. So Brightkite, which is a loser in this, right? Everybody's going to these new game things. Brightkite has created something called check.in that checks you into all of them.
Oh, boy.
m.check.in.
But, so how many are there? There's Foursquare, Gowalla, and Latitude.
There's
and
Whirl, and then there's
Brightkite. So I've never heard of Whirl, or I think I've heard of Brightkite.
There's more all the time. Brightkite was one of the first. And then there's the Yahoo one.
The Fire Eagle
I want to call it
stuff,
Flame
right?
Out, but it's Fire Eagle.
Yeah.
But that ties into your... Anyway, you asked the absolute right question, Jeff, which is why the hell would you use Google Latitude? Because basically what you've done is you've turned on a homing beacon that everywhere you go, at least you check in with Gowalla. You don't have to check in. Or for you, Gina, if you don't want people stalking you, you check in as you're leaving, which is my recommendation.
Right. Yep.
Or I like the idea of doing it, every midnight you check in for what that day held in the past.
A lot of these won't let you do that.
That makes sense to me as a safety issue.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a better way to do it. A lot of them...
Gina, you've gotten over your hinkiness about Foursquare?
Yeah, well, I'm completely private, and I only friend people who I would invite over to my house. So I have a very small friends who are close, real life friends. So I get a lot of friend requests, and I ignore them unless I really know you. Then I don't, and I don't check in at home. Like I have kind of rules. I often check in just before I leave. I don't check in at home. I check in at places kind of far away from where I live, and not so much at places close to where I live. That kind of thing. So I have kind of like these little rules. But yeah, I kind of got over it a little bit. I started to try it, and it's kind of fun. It's really fun. And
has any benefit come to you in terms of saying, "Oh, I didn't know that she was there"?
That's the idea, that these are like urban hipsters who then kind of coagulate, right? So,
yeah.
Oh, Gina's at my favorite bar. I'm going to go down. But does that ever happen? Because you're an urban hipster.
It doesn't happen so much in San Diego, but it has happened at conferences like at Google I/O. I could see where people were near the convention center. It happens in New York, so this is what I really like. I can watch. I have a lot of friends in New York because I lived there for my whole life, and so I can see kind of all the new places that my friends go to. So I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to go back to Shake Shack, when I go back to Manhattan, or yeah, I really want to go to Sandbar. So like I create this kind of mental to-do list of like, oh yeah, my friends have been spending time at this place, and I want to check it out next time I'm there. So.
Don't you want the prescriptive version of Foursquare then that lets you organize the rendezvous?
Using Foursquare to organize like a get together.
Yeah, you can't do that, can you?
No.
No.
You should be
Really?
able to say, I will be here at this hour, rather than I just got here.
Right.
Right, like and meet me there. No, I use
That's
the
Meetup. That's Meetup, right?
Meetup,
No,
yeah.
no, Meetup is about organizing things in
Meetups.
Starbucks. Yeah, meetings about chihuahuas.
Is there anything that's interesting? Is there anything proactive that you could?
That's kind of obvious, isn't it?
Obvious
Why
to
did I
you,
just
Jeff,
put it out?
because you are a big brain.
Well, I
Old
mean,
and
yeah,
I'm
just
hip.
upcoming or Facebook events or
Facebook is
Yeah,
how
but
they
it's
do
nothing
that.
simple
That's right.
than that. It just all you need to do is take Foursquare and be able to manipulate the clock both ways.
right, and say I'm going to be here for
Don't
lunch
show the world where
tomorrow.
I am right now because it makes me hinky. But the more I can post date that, the happier I am to share more. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let me easily do that, and then also let me do it prospectively, and say at noon today I'm going to be at Shake Shack. Who else?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That would actually be a really good use of it.
And then there's a business angle too, because then at some point Shake Shack says if you can prove that you brought 10 friends,
yes.
I'll give you a free burger.
See, now you're talking. That would be really cool. That would be super cool.
And that,
I'm calling-
I'm sure
I'm
these are
calling that
these are obvious models that are coming along because
Yeah, they're coming along. Yeah, a
Starbucks-
Shake Shack meetup is
Starbucks was giving $1 off a frappuccino to the mayor of the local Starbucks,
Look
things
now.
like that.
Really?
That's not enough. More and more, you're going to see coupons and all of that stuff. So, a couple of big stories we should whip through here very quickly. Google vice president says Chrome OS is coming out in the fourth quarter. Really?
Oh.
I don't know. I got
I wanna
Android.
try-
What do I need Chrome? I don't understand why I need Chrome OS.
I want to have a small device that's not a tablet, that's a netbook, and I do not want Windows. It's that simple.
But Android gives you. I mean,
Oh, I see. Why do I need Chrome versus Android?
yeah. Just have. I mean, really, if you like the browser, just sit in the. Don't ever close the browser. I mean, that's all Chromium is, really, or Chrome is, right?
Yeah, I mean, Chrome OS really kind of was like a bet on
get it.
netbooks, right? And like in a tablet world, the netbooks already seem kind of anti. Even though I love mine, I mean, they already seem kind of like a little bit out, right?
Just shows you how
So
fast
it
this
does
stuff moves,
seem
doesn't it?
like-
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, things really do move. So it's like I don't know, Chrome OS on my netbook. I'm interested to see. I liked what they had to say. You know, when asked about Chrome OS versus Android, they said, "Well, we're going to put them both out in the market and see what does better."
Why not?
Yeah,
you
why
got
not?
you got more PhDs than God. I mean, you might as well just
Yeah.
release stuff,
Yeah, sure,
see what happens.
definitely.
Got to do something with that
Yeah, but the
20%
problem
time.
with that is if you start to get forked development, people are developing for one platform, not the other, or it's too expensive to deal with Google because you got to develop for two platforms. That's a problem.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, if you're developing HTML5, they work anywhere, right? I mean, if
Right.
if you're building web apps, which is what they want you to do, Google I/O made it pretty clear they're going to work everywhere.
And I do have to say, I think in one sense I agree with you, Jeff, because I think one of the problems Android's going to face is there are too many phones. They come out too fast. There's too many updates, and it's consumers go, "Whoa, it's too confusing.
Yeah.
There's too many SKUs." Or worse, I'm afraid I'm going to buy something and it's going to be outmoded before I get it home.
Well, or that's one of the reasons, oddly, not to buy the newest phone is because it doesn't have the newest OS.
Right.
EVA.
Wait.
I know.
Right. That's what's holding me back on the Evo.
Yeah.
I want
God
to throw
help-
you. By the way, let me just ask a question here.
Yeah.
So I haven't done the manual download of Froyo.
Oh,
So
do.
what I'm hearing and what I'm afraid of is that then I will not get automatic updates. Hence,
Oh, I don't know about that. Do you
No,
know,
I don't
Junior?
know about that either.
kind of unlocking.
I think you will. I think you will. I don't think it matters. But I
That
don't.
room?
Yeah, I don't think it matters either. I wouldn't worry about it. Well, I mean, you could wait for the over-the-air update. It's probably going to come soon. They said the next
I'm
week.
surprised
right?
it has. So it hasn't come yet?
No, and it lies to me. I go there and I say, update. No, you're up to date. No, I'm not.
It doesn't. There's more stuff. It doesn't. I'll be honest. As nice as Froyo is, it's not something like you're going to go, wow.
Really?
It's I mean, it's definitely faster, but day to day, it does,
Faster, and the keyboard was better.
I don't know. Have you noticed a better keyboard, Gina? I guess it doesn't have that weird loss of. Doesn't have that weird thing where it starts to get crazy.
I use ShapeWriter.
Oh, that's right. You don't know.
Yeah, so I'm not even sure.
Actually, I like the Evo keyboard better. It's a little noisier.
It is a little noisier. It is a little bigger. The Evo keyboard is like the keys feel bigger. Maybe is it because the screen is bigger? I don't know, but it does feel.
I think
yeah.
it's. You think it's
Problem I've noticed with the Android keyboard versus the Apple, because I'm still using both, is that the iPhone has spaces around the keys.
right.
you can hit the middle space and not have it do something.
It's a lot easier. I'll be honest. It's a lot easier to use the iPhone, I think.
It is.
The Evo is closer, though, much closer. And it has some nice stuff like you press and hold, and it will default to caps, or you'll get the default punctuation. So it's a little faster to type. You know what 2.2 adds? It's a little subtle, but I really like, is if you type a word it doesn't know, it will give you an opportunity to add that word to your dictionary.
Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah. It'll finally know my name.
I've yelled at it 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
If I don't hit the red thing, it'll keep telling me, you're wrong, Jeff. You're wrong, Jeff.
And you know what I don't like about the Evo is it has arrow keys on the keyboard instead of the little trackball for the cursor movement. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, that's not so good.
Yeah.
The magnifying glass thing that the iPhone OS does is definitely
Everybody should do that. Everybody should do that. Why?
Yeah.
Maybe it's patented.
Probably patented, yeah.
It might. Yeah, I'm sure that it's patented. It is definitely much better executed than the select text mechanism on Android.
But I do prefer the Android guess.
Yeah, the suggested
much better.
text is better. Yeah, definitely.
You can see very clearly what's coming, what's going to be guessed, and you can modify it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Leo, you're probably going to buy an Evo.
I think so. And I'm told that the Evo is going to update to 2.2 pretty quickly. But, of course, we thought that Nexus 1 would update quickly. The problem with updating these HTC Sense devices is they have to update Sense as well. So it's kind of it's not up to Google. It's up to HTC. Or maybe.
Gina, when your month is up, will you subscribe to Evo?
Well, that's right.
So,
you get the phone free, but you still have to pay for it if you're going to keep it.
Yeah, because you get 30 days free service, and then once the 30 days are up, you're done. You know, I'm in a contract. I just have to look up to see how much it's going to cost to get out of my T-Mobile contract, because I have a contract with T-Mobile.
Oh, yeah, I did the month-to-month on T-Mobile.
I
paid the full freight, so I could get out.
Right, so that you could do that. See, that was smart.
I paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
I paid the penalty up front.
Right. So you paid, right. So I have to look into it. I'm tempted. I mean, the Evo is really, really nice. It is nicer than the Nexus One. I'm not sure if it's so much nicer that I'd be willing to pay the extra and get out of the contract.
I'm giving you homework.
Okay.
You have to get an Incredible as soon as possible, because I want to hear your comparison.
Okay, Tony upstairs has an Incredible. Like I said, I've played with it and love it. And if we're a choice between the Nexus One and the Incredible, I'd definitely get the Incredible because it's just a better Nexus One, right? Mm-hmm. With the OLED screen and everything. So really, again, it comes down to Verizon Sprint, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Verizon T-Mobile
Sprint. It comes down
Sprint.
to models as well.
Well, I mean, if carriers didn't matter, I would say this. I think this bigger screen does make a big difference. So if they get this to 2.2, I would. And by the way, you don't have to use HTC Sense. You can use the standard Google launcher if you want. So you're not stuck, but you still get to keep the widgets and so forth.
Oh, really? How do you?
It's just the default. It's just the default launcher. So you know, in the settings, you can say what the program defaults are.
Yeah.
You just
okay. So you just go to launcher and
you go to applications, HTC Sense, and you say forget the defaults, and then the next time you exit out, it'll say, "Well, do you want to use launcher or Sense?" And then you use launcher, and it looks just like the standard Google experience.
The standard Android.
So that's kind of nice. You have that choice.
But you get to keep the widgets, which I like.
The widgets, I think, are better, and I wish the HTC would just release those for sale on the marketplace.
Yeah.
Andy Rubin told the Mercury News that they're going to go to a once-a-year update, which kind of does respond to that issue of over-updating Android. Is that a disappointment to you? I think it's a disappointment. I'd like to.
Yeah, I want to know the product's always getting better.
Yeah. So here, Gina, I'm scrolling down to HTC Sense, and then you've been here before, and then right here it says clear defaults.
Right, clear defaults. Right.
So you'll force stop it, so that it's not running,
and
then you clear the defaults, and then now when I hit home, it's going to say, "Whoa, do you want to use Sense or Launcher?"
Nice.
If you say use Launcher by default. Now you have to redo all your widgets because the launcher doesn't know anything about. But now we're back to a standard Google phone.
Oh, okay. Right. And there's a standard power widget.
Don't you, this is a Sense wallpaper. I like it. It's a live map. This is one of the live wallpapers.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I haven't seen that one.
Yes, I love it.
That must hog battery.
Oh God.
Yeah, that must hog battery.
Oh.
Well, you can leave the GPS off, and then it doesn't know the map's wrong. But at least.
Wow, it's a map.
But it is a map. In fact, it is wrong right now. I think this is not where I am. Yeah.
I like to release early and often, but at the same time, I think a once a year release cycle is sane. And when it's once a year and you're getting a new release, you kind of expect it to be significant. God help Kevin Purdy, my coworker at Lifehacker who's writing the Android book.
That's true.
I mean, it's so tough for him,
Yeah.
between all the different handsets and all the different, builds, and now, the different UIs. It's tough to kind of keep up with. I mean, the Android's, it's not.
That's Gina.
Experience.
That's because you write your code by hand. See, when you handwrite code, it just adds a little extra work. My suggestion: get a text editor.
This was my Memorial Day. I kind of overloaded on screen time, and
so
I just sat
cute.
down with my notebook and just started sketching out code.
Yeah.
It's very, very satisfying to write in a notebook,
So
and I just
cute.
wanted to write in code. And I got a lot done after I did that little jotting session there.
You didn't
I
type
want
the
you to
code
have an
in.
inkwell.
Yeah, really. This is how Neil Stephenson writes his programs, actually.
No, I mean, I was just defining interfaces. I wasn't writing the meat of the,
You were
the
thinking.
body of the
This is
methods.
thinking, though, which is
Yeah,
great.
it's just thinking. It's just sketching out and thinking.
Sometimes
design.
we type too much and think too little, so I don't think this is so bad.
I think better with a pen. I love that feeling of the pen against paper. I still carry a notebook and a pen. I even though I've got my Android phone and my laptop and stuff, I just,
Daniel Book says you got to get monospaced paper, though, if you're going to
yeah. And then someone said, I like your version control because I date every page of my notebook, and at the top it's 531.
Sure.
2010.
You know exactly when you wrote this. This is version 69 from 531. Of course.
That's page 69.
Oh,
but
page,
yes.
but that's same thing.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's so funny. She thinks in Java. Oh, no, it's PHP. Is it PHP or Java?
It's PHP, but PHP 5
Looks
is
just like Java.
It looks so much like Java now. And especially if you use PHP Documenter, it has that same Java doc format. I mean, and I'm using Eclipse, so if you open up one of my PHP files,
look like you're in
looks
Java.
like Java. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Jeff, I
Yeah,
apologize. We
God,
didn't.
I'm
Little geek out moment there. Just
That's
ignore
fine.
us.
That's
Totally,
fine.
but PHP 5
I might as well be hearing
abstract
security now.
classes, interface is the whole thing. I'm loving PHP. So yeah, okay.
Wow,
zip it up.
you don't hear that a lot. I'm loving PHP.
You don't. PHP doesn't get the love it deserves.
Some
Whatever,
love.
Ruby. PHP.
How many languages do you speak, Gina?
As many as I can Google code snippets for.
There you go. That's the key,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean,
Uh.
I'd say 2 or 3 that I feel pretty proficient in, but I'm kind of a copy and paste, teach myself, read the docs.
And they're all variants of C. So if you kind of know
Yeah.
C, you know Java, you know Python. Perl's not a
I
variant
programmed
of
C in
but
graduate school, so
Yeah.
you can
if you
you can
start
apply
with
that
C,
knowledge elsewhere.
if you start with C, you're all right. You're good. You're good to go. All right, let's get our tip tool and number of the week and wrap this thing up. Boy, this has been a fun show. I tell you.
It's my highlight of my week, guys. I love
You
hanging out.
sent
Yeah,
that in
me
your
too.
email, Jeff, and I thought that was very kind because, frankly, we feel so grateful to have you and Gina as part of the network and to be able to do this show with you. I feel like I should be sending you guys massive checks or something. Or at least a fruit basket.
We should be sending
You sent us a slanket. That did it for me.
Oh yeah, I sent you a slanket,
You got me for years.
and you can't get those anymore. They're valuable.
Oh, limited edition slankets. I mean, come
I
on.
think you should sell Leo Laporte branded seat balls.
You know what? Actually, it's too bad Colleen left because that was a project on her
Really?
very, very long list. Yeah, we were going to put Leo Laporte branded bouncies because
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't have any stats to back this up. But every time I meet somebody now, they say, "Oh yeah, I sit on a ball too." It's like I think I hope to God it's like not like Steve Martin with the glasses thing. Like it's going to cause some sort of horrible spine damage in 15 years, and all these people are going to sue me. At least I'll have it too. Your tip of the week, Gina Trapani.
Tip this week, really simple. Everyone knows that Google has a PDF viewer, right? So if you get a PDF attachment in Gmail, you can click on the view link and it opens up in this browser-based viewer. Well, I got a couple emails about this week. I don't think there was an actual blog post about it anywhere, but there's a new link there that says Save to Google Docs. So you click on the Save to Google Docs and it moves the PDF right into your Google Docs account, where you can save files. So it's kind of simple one-click way to add PDFs to your Google Docs account.
Wow.
Gina, I've
Yeah.
had the weirdest thing also this week. Every time I've tried to open the PDF that's been attached to an email and it would open up in that viewer, won't open up.
Really?
No, I don't know why. It's not like
what
I
happened?
get a new version of Gmail or something.
Yeah. Was it not rendering at all, or was it just like
Well, it
white?
just tells me it can't.
Huh.
And so, it's the new version of Chrome. I don't know if that's what it is.
I love Chrome.
Straight.
I'm
I'll
having,
try to download it into Google Docs.
I'm having a love affair with Chrome, I confess. It's so fast, and I just love it.
Yeah, Chrome is pretty fantastic.
Loves it.
I don't know what that's about, Jeff. I just tried that before, although I was using Firefox. Now I'm going to try it right in Chrome. While you do your number,
I'm trying to find nobody sends me PDFs anymore. How do you get somebody to send you a PDF? No,
You work in my business.
don't send me PDFs, please.
PDFs let me control the look and the feel. And
Well,
they
this is
send
the thing, right?
contracts and
PDFs
lists.
are pretty useless, right, for the most part.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you get that PDF, like manuals. I used to very diligently file away my paper
Right.
manuals from my gadgets. You can find them online as PDFs. You can save new Google Docs account and save some, file cabinet space. So
Well,
if
it's
you do
better
search-
than a .docx file or something like that.
Well, that's true.
Ugh.
If you do a search for has attachment in Gmail,
Oh,
has : attachment,
I love it
and
when
then
she does
space
this.
PDF.
I know, it's just so hot.
That'll give you all your email with attachments.
Well, not only that, it's suggesting. It's actually
Yeah.
suggesting has attachment.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
That's great.
has attachment, and then you can put PDF, and so.
So I
okay,
should say has attachment PDF?
Yeah, has attachment space PDF, and I'll show you
Wow.
just PDF files.
Wow. Searching. Okay, good. Here's a PDF file. Yep. So I can view it. Now I'm in Chrome, the latest Chrome for Macintosh, and it views it. I probably
Yeah, so it
shouldn't
opens it
show
up, and
somebody's resume. I won't show the rest of it.
but
And
there's a
then-
save in Google Docs link
this
right
is,
there.
This is really really sweet here.
So I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of PDFs, but I got like 3 separate emails from different listeners telling me how excited they were that they could finally save their PDFs to their Google Docs account. So hence the tip.
Save in Google Docs. Saving.
There you go.
Very nice.
And
Jeff,
then it just shows up.
your Jarvis of the week, Jeff.
Number of the week is 71%. Pew did another one of its wonderful surveys. They really are the incredible source of great data that we'll use in the history books in the future about how the internet was made. So Pew looked at young people and social networks and found that 71% of young people, that is to say young adults 18 to 29, have changed the privacy settings on their profiles to limit what others can see. And so all this argument that most people just go with the default,
That's really good
at that
news.
age, they actually trust it less, they're savvier, they do more, compared to 55% of people 50 to 64.
That's really good news.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
And as usual, have more faith in our young than media people would have you have.
Like me, because that's one of the reasons I quit is I thought, oh, my kids don't get it. I don't want to encourage anybody to use Facebook because they don't understand how to make it private. Good. Well, my pick of the week is something I've been waiting for a long time. Audible has finally, I don't know actually if it's coming from Audible or from Google, because it is in a Google code database, has finally put out a beta of Audible for
Yay!
Oh, sweet.
for Android. And this is it. I downloaded the beta. The beta is free. You log into your Audible account. All of your titles are there. You can download them right to the phone. You don't have to hook it up to a computer. You can search by title, by author, by length, recent. It has a lot of nice features. This is actually, I think, one of the sweetest Audible applications I've ever seen. Audible News is there. You can even get stats. Obviously, whoever wrote this is one of us.
Yeah.
So how many? And you get. By the way, they've got a little game in here. You can be an Audible Master, Audible Scholar, Audible Pro, Audible Novice, or Audible newbie based on how much Audible you've listened to. Smart.
Is it in the market, Leo? Or
It is
or do you
not.
have to download the
It is
beta?
not. And look they have trophies just like Foursquare. They've got badges.
I love badges.
This is very.
Gina, you've been corrupted.
I
Yeah.
have been. Foursquare totally got me.
Yeah, this will show
Badges.
your total Audible listening time today, daily, monthly. I mean, I've never seen an Audible app like this. This is like the best app I've ever seen for Audible. Your Audible titles, how many you've got. This is just so cool. So thank
In
you.
the latitude, you don't know what you were listening as you were walking in that place.
Yes, that's all I need. Yes, let's do a mashup, a Google Map mashup. If you listen to audiobooks, you know this already, though. If I go by a spot that I was listening to an
That's
audiobook,
exactly what I'm talking about. You're
I
associated.
know what I was listening to, and vice
Yeah.
versa. Isn't that weird?
It's very strange.
The brain does some strange things. So that's not just me. You do that too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've done it with you. I've been listening to a podcast, and this corner reminds me that Leo said blank. You know, it's weird.
So strange.
When I was memorizing my lines for some of the videos I did for Fast Company, I talked to my editor who used to do some acting, who said that when you try to memorize things, you should put your body in a different position or go to a place that you don't normally go, because your brain kind of
Oh yeah,
you know,
That
creates
makes sense.
these like synapses, right? Like create these connections between those things.
So what they've done is they've created a Google group for the Audible for Android beta. So it's free to join. You do have to join it. There are currently only 381 members, but I bet that number goes up a little
Up
bit.
right now, yeah.
And they've been putting out builds. The most recent build is May 28th. And of course, there's all the usual disclaimers, but it does seem to work fine. And by the way, it does work over 3G if you should choose. So this is pretty awesome. And this is only for, I'm sorry to say, Audible in the U.S. Audible UK, DE, and FR. It's not going to work for you, but they do plan international versions soon. Really a slick, I don't know, is it Google who did this? I don't know. Whoever did this, they've done a great job. And I haven't had trouble with 2.2. I'm running on 2.2 right now.
When people rush to download that from our show, then it will prove to Audible that this is a good market for us.
You know, that's right. Why aren't they advertising on this show?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Exactly.
They think that people who use the cloud don't read or something. I don't know. Jeff Jarvis is the man behind BuzzMachine.com. He should be reading this blog. I know he's just a blogger, but look, he's not in his jammies. He's also
Ascended to a nation of us.
he's also written some actual
See what
books.
happens.
In fact, his new book, you just signed the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't wait. It's called Private Parts. No,
Public Parts.
Public Parts. It's the response to Private Parts.
In a way.
You know, I just put two and two together with that. I didn't realize that's kind of a little play on the
A little homage there.
a little homage to Howard. I hope he doesn't sue you.
Most public person there is. Nah.
No, of course he won't.
Congratulations, Jeff. That's awesome.
Isn't that great? I cannot wait to
Can't
read
wait
it.
to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't
I
have
can't wait
to
to
wait.
write it.
Yeah, you don't have to wait. Read his blog. It's all there. BuzzMachine.com. And, of course, what would Google do is the current book.
Thank you, Leo.
Gina's current book is The Complete Guide to Google Wave at CompleteWaveGuide.com. You must get it if you use Wave. And the nice thing is it's a PDF, so you can update it.
Yes, we can update it, and it's free on the website, which also gets updated. That's a wiki,
Right.
and we're gonna have the EPUB file, and it's available on the Kindle if you search on Amazon, and we're gonna have the EPUB file available very, very soon.
Yay.
Yep.
And, of course, Gina's site is smarterware.org. But you see her on Lifehacker and Fast Company and all sorts of other places, too. I hope you will join us for this show. We've moved it, in case you didn't know, to Wednesday afternoons, hoping to make it a little easier for you to listen or watch live at live.twit.tv. The festivities begin at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's 2000 UTC at live.twit.tv, or go to twit.tv/twig, and you can subscribe to the audio or the video and get it whenever it's available, the minute it's available. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on This Week in Google.